If you listened on Tuesday, you learned how to ignite, catalyze, and generate momentum. That's great, but where do you go from here? How do you keep it going? How do you maintain momentum and sustain it over a long period of time? That's what today's episode is all about. Let's get started.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf, and I'm excited to talk to you about maintaining momentum, maintaining top speed. So if you listen on Tuesday, we talked about generating momentum, maybe when there's not enough wind or macroeconomic environments to help you, you can generate momentum in any kind of environment. Okay, so now how do you maintain top speed? How does a marathon runner who's going to win the marathon at the Olympics maintain that record speed all throughout? How do companies maintain excellence year over year over year, month over month? How do top writers maintain excellence? How do top producers, top performers maintain these standards of excellence? Well, that's a key word, standard. Okay, process, standard, measurements, metrics, accountability. So let's go through it. First and foremost, great job on generating the momentum. Hey, that's really like half the battle. All right, now expect turbulence, expect resilience, expect to not always feel like you're lit up on fire and super motivated. Expect that. That's okay. How do you combat that? How do you combat, feeling like, I just want to kind of relax or veer off course, or I don't want to pursue this goal anymore? Maybe you need an accountability partner, a friend, a coach, a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you, or manager, or just a peer, coworker. Accountability partners are excellent and wonderful avenues to help you maintain your momentum or sustain your momentum. Number two, you need a way to measure and track your results of whatever you're trying to measure. So I don't care if it's pen and paper. I don't care if it's something sophisticated, a massive spreadsheet you've built. Create a method of measurement and create metrics and compare yourself to your goals, where you were yesterday, your progress. If you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So measure it. All right. And then I would tell you standards. What is your standard of excellence that you're not going to break? What is that bond, that promise to yourself? So what is the standard? Put in the standard in place. Another word for that might be the habits, the rituals, the disciplines. You're always going to do this when you wake up in the morning, or you're always going to do this thing or aspect every single day. You're always going to leave a special note to your partner. You're always going to make sure you do this for the first 5 minutes when you wake up. And it could be health, wellness, spirit, body, mind, soul, what have you. You're always going to go to bed at a certain time. You're always going to do certain, in the middle of the day, you're going to cut stuff out. Maybe it's cutting out certain foods or whatnot. Or certain activities. You're going to cut things out or you're going to add things in, but they're going to be part of your ritual, your standards. And then I would tell you the process. You're always going to follow a certain process, a system that you've put in place for yourself. These are ways that you sustain momentum or maintain momentum, and it'll help you avoid the ups and downs, even when you don't feel like it, or when headwinds come about. If you put in these standards, you're always going to get there. Jim Collins talks about the 20-mile march. And Manny and I have talked about that on this podcast. And he talked about these folks who these two teams, they're trying to go to the South Pole in this expedition. And there's one team that no matter the weather, they always did march 20 miles. And another team said, hey, if the weather's good, we're going to go out, we're going to try to go get 40 miles. If weather's cold or raining, whatever, maybe we're going to take that day off. And unfortunately, that team didn't make it and they perished. The other team, they got there because they were always going to hit their 20 miles. That was their process, their standards. And so it's just another example of how you can kind of maintain excellence over a long period of time. And so you're going to, in our world, at retail, we're always going to talk to guests a certain way. We're always going to present, something a certain way. We're going to go through our C4 process. And so I think whether you have, a person in your life who can help hold you accountable, a metric or a method of measuring yourself, a system, standard for your day, for your week, how it's going to set up, a promise to yourself. These are ways that you can take emotion out of it, or how you feel out of it, or what's happening in your life out of it, and you can make sure that the standard is in place to maintain momentum, to maintain that top speed. Not easy to do, easy to talk about. It's simple to do, but not easy, right? Because you have to do it. And I would just tell you, expect resistance. Expect that something's going to try to come off and knock you off your perch. That's part of the game. That's part of it. Like if it was easy, everyone would be doing it and maintaining top speed, but it's not. But you can do it, and you just got to try different things. And there's things out there that you can kind of research or listen to say, and study how people have achieved things over a long period of time. And what you're going to find is they have fallen in love with the process. They have fallen in love with progress over perfection. They have fallen in love with consistency over intensity. You don't want the high-low or the Jekyll and Hyde kind of mentality. It's the tortoise versus the hare. You just want to consistently make progress and be on kind of keep it level and keep it at a pace that you can kind of sustain. And that's kind of the way to go about it, because what that's going to help you do is avoid the troughs. Avoid getting off the tracks and veering off course. It's just really kind of simple. And really, when you're in the heat of the summer, and when you're in these summer months, it's like what James Clear says. People don't rise to the occasion; they fall back on their systems, or they revert back to their training. And so you're going to fall back to the systems that you put in place, and the metrics, and the accountability partners that you have in your life, the structures and the habits and the rituals that you've put in your life to help you. And then, by the way, you can always take this learning mindset that we talked about and that we've talked about before, and be willing to go learn new things. And when you do, that can kind of energize you to help that momentum continue going, because you're going to bring one new aspect. Ooh, I can add this into my ritual or my discipline, and that's something I've not done before. And that's how you kind of make these micro improvements, where you take a set of disciplines, rituals, habits that you've established, metrics, way of kind of processes, and then you just try to add maybe one little idea or nugget to it at a time, and incrementally make those improvements. And then those improvements compound, because consistency compounds, and compound is force amplifier, force magnifier. And you know the math on compounding. Albert Einstein said compound interest was the eighth wonder of the world, and he who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it. And we just apply compounding to all these other things, but consistency compounds. And so if you put in things that can make your behaviors be consistent, and structures and disciplines be consistent over a long period of time, you are going to absolutely shock yourself with what you can achieve, and others will be shocked as well, and they'll say, how do you do it? And you're going to say, well, it was boring. I was just kind of doing the same thing repeatedly that generated results, and I just kind of made these micro improvements over time. So last episode, we talked about how to generate momentum, get that flywheel moving. And on this episode, we talked about how to maintain that momentum. And that might give you a little bit of boost to kind of make it through the summer, to ignite your goals, to win 2024, to get a jump start on 2025. Wherever you are in your process, we wish you tremendous success. Let's get after it. Let's go win together. And by the way, I think that competition gets a bad rap. If you look at the etymology of the word competition, it's from competere, the Latin word competere, which means to strive together. And so it's always helpful to have someone who is working on the same things with you, and you push each other together. You want the best for each other. You want to strive together, and then you will push each other. So maybe you need someone in your corner or on your team or with you, running side by side, running at the similar pace as you, and who's going to help you kind of maintain that momentum. It really helps to have competition to help you maintain momentum. And I mean that in a really good way, in a positive way. And so if you look at folks out there, if you have someone else who's like kind of your rival or who you compete against, a rising tide raises all boats, and everyone will elevate their game together. So that's it on this quick little summer series for maintaining momentum. I hope you drew some value out of it. If you did, we'd love it if you would mash that like button or subscribe. Leave us a comment. Tell us what else you'd like to see here at Stories from the River. We'll try to bring you fresh new content that can add value to your day, your life, your work every Tuesday and Thursday. And so thanks so much for joining us today here at Stories from the River.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.